The night my ex-husband told me leaving me was the smartest decision he'd ever made, I thought my marriage was over. I was wrong. Months later, my 6-year-old daughter looked at another man and called him Daddy. Then I discovered my ex had changed my daughter's birth records, hidden a missing child, and lied about why he married me in the first place. But the biggest shock came when he warned me that the man helping me uncover the truth might be hiding the darkest secret of all. If you were in my position, would you trust the man helping you, or believe your ex-husband? Tell me in the comments, and subscribe if you want to uncover the truth with me. The last thing my husband gave me before leaving our marriage was his wedding ring. He placed it beside my coffee cup and said, "Walking away from you is the smartest decision I've ever made." I remember staring at that ring more than I remember his face. Maybe because the ring had once represented a promise. That night, it represented a verdict. My name is Camila Hahn. I was 34 when my marriage to Dorian Vey ended, and I had spent 7 years believing I knew exactly who my husband was. I was wrong. Dorian was 39, successful, polished, and admired by almost everyone who knew him. He owned several rehabilitation clinics and could make difficult decisions without raising his voice. People described him as disciplined, responsible, brilliant. At home, I knew another version of him. He liked control. He liked knowing where everything was, who had said what, and what would happen next. Our daughter, Eloan, was 6 years old then. She had my dark hair and Dorian's sharp eyes. She was quiet around strangers but remembered almost everything adults said around her. That night, she was asleep upstairs. Dorian and I were alone in the kitchen. "You've already made up your mind," I said. "Yes." "Is there another woman?" "No." "Then what is this?" He leaned back in his chair. "This is me finally admitting that our marriage doesn't work." I looked at him. "You could have told me that before you filed the papers." "I've told you for years." "No. You've complained for years." "That's different." His jaw tightened. For a moment, I thought he might argue. Instead, he stood and picked up his car keys. "I've been carrying this family financially. I've built my career. I've made sacrifices." I almost laughed. "And what do you think I've been doing?" "You've been managing the house." "Managing the house?" "You know what I mean." I did. That was the problem. Dorian always knew exactly how to make my work sound smaller. I had taken care of Eloan's school schedule, her medical appointments, his father's medications, our bills, and everything that happened between Monday morning and Sunday night while Dorian traveled between clinics. I had never considered keeping score. He clearly had. He walked toward the door. "Dorian." He stopped. "If you leave tonight, don't pretend this was mutual." He turned around. His expression was calm. Almost relieved. "Camila, leaving you is the smartest decision I've ever made." Then he walked out. The door closed. I stood there for several seconds before I heard footsteps upstairs. Eloan appeared at the bottom of the staircase wearing pink pajamas. "Mommy?" I wiped my face before she could see me crying. "Daddy left." "He's going to sleep somewhere else?" "Yes." "Why?" I swallowed. "Because grown-ups sometimes make decisions they think are best." She looked toward the front door. "Is he coming back tomorrow?" I didn't know what to say. So I said the only thing I could. "I don't know." The next morning, Dorian's closet was half empty. By Friday, he had moved into a furnished apartment downtown. 2 weeks later, he filed for divorce. The divorce itself was strangely easy. He didn't fight me over the house. He didn't demand more money. He didn't even ask for full custody. Instead, he requested one evening with Eloan every Thursday. That should have comforted me. A father who wanted his daughter. A clean separation. A reasonable custody arrangement. For the first few months, I believed that was exactly what it was. I moved into a smaller house near Bellwether Park because I could no longer afford the mortgage on our old home alone. Eloan started at a new school. I found a position managing medical records for a research foundation. Life became smaller, but it also became predictable. And after Dorian's constant criticism, predictable felt peaceful. Then came the Thursday that changed everything. It was raining heavily when Dorian brought Eloan home. He was 2 hours late. I opened the door before he could knock. Where have you been? Traffic. 2 hours? He looked irritated. Camila, I said traffic. Eloan stood behind him. She was wearing a yellow coat I had never seen before. I looked at her. Sweetheart, come inside. She stepped past me. Dorian stayed on the porch. I pointed toward the coat. Where did she get that? I bought it. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't think buying our daughter a coat required your approval. Something about the way he said it made my stomach tighten. Then I noticed the silver bird stitched onto the pocket. I had seen that symbol before. It belonged to one of Dorian's clinics. Where did you take her today? To a children's program. What children's program? He smiled. You're asking a lot of questions. Because you brought my daughter home 2 hours late. She's fine. Eloan suddenly spoke. Daddy said I shouldn't tell you. Dorian's face changed. Only for a second. Then he smiled again. She misunderstood. I looked at my daughter. What shouldn't you tell me? Eloan lowered her eyes. Nothing. Dorian stepped closer. See? You're upsetting her. Eloan, look at me. She did. Her eyes were nervous. Did Daddy tell you to keep a secret? She nodded. Dorian sighed. Camila, this is exactly why I left. That sentence hit harder than it should have. He turned away. Dorian. He stopped. If you're teaching our daughter to hide things from me, this is not going to end well. He looked over his shoulder. Be careful. Then he walked to his car. I watched him drive away. That night, Eloan fell asleep beside me on the couch while I watched the rain run down the windows. I carried her upstairs. When I returned to the living room, I noticed the yellow coat hanging over a chair. I picked it up. There was a zipper underneath the collar. Inside was a folded piece of paper. I opened it. The handwriting was Eloan's. 3 words. Thursday is secret. I sat down. My hands were shaking. At 11:40 p.m., I called Dorian. He answered immediately. Why are you calling? Why is Eloan being taught to keep secrets from me? Silence. Then he said, you're becoming paranoid. I'm her mother. And I'm her father. Then act like one. His voice became colder. Watch what you're saying, Camila. Where did you take her? That's not your concern. It absolutely is. If you continue making accusations without evidence, I'll reconsider our custody agreement. I stared at the phone. Are you threatening me? No. His answer came instantly. I'm reminding you that courts don't look kindly on unstable behavior. Then he hung up. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I called the school. They confirmed Eloan had been picked up by Dorian every Thursday. But they had no record of where he took her afterward. So that afternoon, I made a decision. I would follow him. I waited in a grocery store parking lot across from Dorian's clinic. At 4:10 p.m., he arrived. At 4:27, he picked up Eloan. Instead of driving toward our neighborhood, he headed toward the river district. I followed from 2 cars behind. 20 minutes later, he stopped outside an old brick building. The sign above the entrance read, Harbor House Children's Center. Dorian got out. Eloan ran inside. I parked across the street. A few minutes later, a man stepped outside. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in a navy jacket. He crouched down and spoke to Eloan. She smiled. Then she hugged him. I felt a sharp knot form in my stomach. The man looked across the street. Straight at me. He said something to Eloan, then walked toward my car. I rolled down the window. Who are you? Rafferty Quill. His voice was calm. Why is my daughter here? He glanced back at the building. That's a longer answer than you want to hear in a parking lot. Try me. He studied my face. Then he said, Dorian told you she was coming here, didn't he? No. Rafferty's expression hardened. Then we need to talk. We crossed the street and went into a small coffee shop. He sat opposite me. I run Harbor House. What is this place? After-school care. Counseling. Family support. Why is Eloan here? Dorian enrolled her 4 months ago. I stared at him. 4 months? He nodded. Every Thursday. And you never called me? I assumed Dorian had told you. He didn't. Rafferty looked genuinely surprised. Then there's something you need to know. He opened a folder. Inside were 16 reports. Each one had Eloan's name. I read the first. Then the second. Then the third. The notes described anxiety, stomachaches, difficulty sleeping, and repeated distress whenever family matters were discussed. Is someone hurting her? No. Then what is causing this? We don't know. I looked up. Rafferty lowered his voice. But something strange has been happening. What? Someone has been talking to her about you. My fingers tightened around the folder. Who? We don't know. He turned one report toward me. She keeps saying someone told her that you might lose the house. My heart stopped. Who told her that? She wouldn't say. Did Dorian say it? We don't know. I looked through the remaining pages. Then I noticed a line written by hand. Child repeatedly refers to a second father. I looked up. What does this mean? Rafferty didn't answer immediately. Camila, yesterday Eloan asked me a question. What question? She asked if a child can have 2 daddies. I stared at him. What did you tell her? That families can look different. He hesitated. Then she said something else. What? Rafferty leaned closer. She said, I don't know which daddy is real. I couldn't speak. There was only one man Eloan had ever called daddy. Dorian. At least, that was what I believed. I stood up. I need to see her. Rafferty nodded. But before we reached the door, my phone rang. It was Dorian. I answered. Where are you? His voice was almost amused. You're at Harbor House. I froze. How do you know? I know more than you think. Why is our daughter talking about another father? There was a long pause. Then Dorian said something that made the blood drain from my face. Because, Camila, you still don't understand why I left. What does that mean? You think I walked away from you. He laughed quietly. I didn't. The line went dead. I looked at Rafferty. He had heard enough from my expression. What did he say? I couldn't answer. Because at that exact moment, the front door opened. Eloan came running toward us. She stopped when she saw Rafferty. Her face brightened. "Daddy." Rafferty went completely still. And I realized Dorian's threat had never been about a secret. It was about making me believe there was another father in my daughter's life before I even knew that another man existed. I didn't correct Eloan when she called Rafferty Daddy. Not because I agreed with her. Because I was too stunned to speak. Rafferty looked at me as if he expected an accusation. Eloan simply reached for his hand. "Can we go home now?" I forced myself to breathe. "Sweetheart, this isn't home." She frowned. "Harbor House is home on Thursdays." That sentence followed me all the way back to my car. On the drive home, I asked Eloan carefully, "Who told you Harbor House was home?" "You did." "I never did." She looked confused. "Daddy did." My hands tightened around the steering wheel. "Which daddy?" She pointed toward the back seat. "The one who comes with you." I almost missed the red light. "What does he look like?" "He has a black coat." That wasn't Dorian. "Did he ever give you anything?" "A bracelet." I called Rafferty. "What does HQ mean?" There was a pause. "My initials." "Why does my daughter have a bracelet with your initials?" "I didn't give it to her." "Then who did?" "I'll find out." "Don't investigate anything without telling me." "Camila, someone is deliberately confusing your daughter." "I know." "No. I don't think you do." "He told me there were cameras outside Harbor House." "Someone has been watching Eloan." My stomach tightened. "Who?" "I don't know. The person keeps their face covered. But they're always there on Thursdays." That night, I locked every door. At 1:13 a.m., my phone buzzed. Rafferty had sent a photograph. A black SUV was parked across the street from Harbor House. The license plate was partially visible. I knew it. It belonged to Dorian. I called him. "You're watching our daughter." "What?" "Your car was outside Harbor House." "So? Why are you lying to me?" "I don't owe you an explanation for every place I drive." "You're teaching Eloan secrets." "No." His voice became colder. "I'm protecting her from you." "From me? What have I ever done to her?" "Nothing yet." That word frightened me. "Dorian, what are you planning?" He laughed quietly. "I'm not planning anything." "Then why is someone following her?" "Maybe you should ask the man she calls Daddy." He hung up. The next morning, I went to my office and searched public records about Harbor House. An old newspaper article connected Rafferty to an emergency at St. Maribel Hospital. He had been the dispatcher assigned to the call. I printed the article and drove to Harbor House. Rafferty was in his office. I placed the paper on his desk. "You knew Dorian 7 years ago." He didn't deny it. "Yes." "How?" "I handled a call involving one of his clinics." "What kind of call?" He looked toward the door. "A newborn transfer." My heart stopped. My daughter was born at St. Maribel. "I know." "How?" "Because I was there that night." I stared at him. "You were at the hospital when Eloan was born?" "Yes." Emergency services were called because a baby had been moved without normal authorization. "What baby?" "I don't know." "Then tell me what you remember." Rafferty opened a locked cabinet and removed an old dispatch notebook. The entry was dated 7 years earlier. 2341, St. Maribel Maternity Wing. Private vehicle requested. Below it. Caller states infant transfer authorized by D. Vey. My hands went cold. Dorian authorized a baby transfer? According to the call. Where was the baby taken? VA Rehabilitation's private facility. Dorian didn't own a maternity facility. No. The silence between us changed. A nurse had entered my room after midnight. Did you authorize additional genetic testing? I had looked at Dorian. He answered for me. Yes. At the time, I trusted him. Now I wondered whether I had authorized anything. I need my maternity records, I said. Rafferty nodded. I'll help you request them. I can do it myself. I know. But Dorian already tried to remove records from Harbor House. I froze. What? Someone broke into my office last night. What did they take? Your custody documents. How would they know they were here? I don't know. He showed me another photograph. A man was entering Harbor House at 2:07 a.m. His face was hidden. But his left hand was visible. A black stone ring surrounded by silver. I knew that ring. Dorian wore it when we married. I had given it to him. That afternoon, I drove to St. Maribel Hospital. The records department was in an older building behind the main hospital. A woman named Marlo Sen met me there. She was in her 60s and had worked in records for decades. When I gave her my name, she became quiet. You remember me? I remember your file. What happened to it? Your husband requested copies several times. Why? He said they were needed for insurance. Were they? I don't know. She brought out a paper folder. Then she frowned. This isn't complete. What is missing? The neonatal transfer page. Can you retrieve it? I can try. She disappeared into the archive. 10 minutes later, she returned with another folder. This was filed separately. She opened it. The first page contained my name. The second contained Eloan's. The third made me stop breathing. There was another infant listed on the same date. Different mother. Different surname. Beside the infant's record was a handwritten note. Private transfer, authorized by Dorian Vay. I looked at Marlo. Who was this baby? I don't know. Where did the baby go? The transfer record says Vay Rehabilitation. Did the baby survive? There's no death record. I stared at the page. 2 babies. 1 hospital. 1 private transfer. And Dorian's signature. Rafferty watched my face. You're thinking about what this means. I'm thinking about what he lied about. There may be an explanation. Then why is there a missing baby? He didn't answer. At St. Maribel, Marlo kept looking toward the hallway. Has anyone else asked for these records recently? I asked. She hesitated. Yes. Who? A man claiming to represent your former husband. When? Yesterday. Did he know what he was looking for? Marlo nodded. He specifically asked for the neonatal transfer page. That was the moment I stopped believing this was an old secret that had accidentally resurfaced. Someone was still protecting it. And someone knew I was looking for it. I looked down at the document again. Then I noticed something I had missed before. The infant's file number was almost identical to Eloan's. Only 1 digit was different. I pointed at it. Why are these files next to each other? Marlo's face went pale. They shouldn't be. What does that mean? She took the folder from my hands and turned to the final page. There was a correction written in red ink. A name had been crossed out. Underneath it was a replacement. I knew the handwriting. I had seen it thousands of times on checks, contracts, birthday cards, and the divorce papers. Dorian's handwriting. Marlowe whispered, Camila, your daughter's original birth record was altered 6 years ago. My breath caught. Altered how? The father listed here was not Dorian. I stared at her. Someone had changed my daughter's identity after she was born. And suddenly the question wasn't why Dorian had left me. It was why he had needed me to believe Eloan was his daughter in the first place. When Marlowe said Dorian was not listed as Eloan's original father, I stopped hearing the traffic outside the archive. I looked again. Who was? Marlowe hesitated. I can't tell you from this copy. Why? The original page was removed. Rafferty stepped closer. By whom? Marlowe looked at me. Your husband. It confirmed the fear already sitting in my chest. 7 years earlier, I had trusted Dorian with my daughter, my records, my future. Now I couldn't trust the name on my child's birth certificate. I want every document you have, I said. Marlowe shook her head. If Dorian has already requested the records, we need to be careful. I don't care. Rafferty stopped me. If someone knows we're investigating, they may destroy the rest. I stopped. Marlowe copied every page connected to my delivery. When she reached the final document, she froze. There's something else. She pulled out a sealed envelope. My name was typed across the front. I've never seen this, I said. Neither have I. Rafferty opened it carefully. Inside was a handwritten note. The first line made me numb. Camila must never be told that the babies were switched. I read it again. Babies? Marlowe looked at Rafferty. Rafferty looked at me. I don't know what this means. I turned the page. Dorian Vey will handle the legal identity. The surviving child must remain under Vey protection until the trust activates. What trust? Nobody answered. Then my phone rang. It was my lawyer, Nessa Calder. Camila, where are you? At St. Maribel. Her voice became tense. Leave. Why? Dorian just filed an emergency motion. For what? Temporary sole custody. My grip tightened. On what grounds? He claims you've exposed Eloan to an unrelated man and are encouraging her to call him daddy. I looked at Rafferty. He planned this. I think so, Nessa said. And there's more. What? A recording of you confronting him. That call was private. I know. How did he get it? He claims it came from a lawful recording device installed in your former marital home. I remembered the small black sensor above our kitchen doorway. Dorian had once told me it was part of the security system. I had believed him. We haven't lived there for almost a year. He says it was installed before you moved. I ended the call. Rafferty watched me. He's trying to take Eloan. On what grounds? He says I'm unstable. Rafferty's expression hardened. Then we prove he's lying. I looked at the envelope. He isn't just trying to get custody. He needs Eloan. Why? I pointed at the line about the trust. He wants control of something that belongs to her. We left St. Maribel through a side entrance. 10 minutes later, my phone received a message from an unknown number. Stop looking into the birth records. A second message followed. Dorian is not the person you should be afraid of. Then a photograph appeared. It showed Eloan entering Harbor House. Beside her was Rafferty. In the background stood a woman I had never seen before. She was watching my daughter. I zoomed in. She wore a silver bird pendant. The symbol from Eloan's yellow coat. Who is she? I don't know, Rafferty said. Have you seen her before? Once. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't know whether she mattered. She wasn't watching Rafferty. She was watching Eloan. That night, I went to the old house. Dorian had sold the property, but I had an old key. Inside, the rooms were bare. The security sensor remained above the kitchen doorway. Rafferty followed me inside. Don't touch it. I need to know what's inside. He removed the cover. A tiny recording module sat behind it. My stomach turned. He was recording us. Probably. He examined the wiring. This connects to another system. What system? I don't know. The module clicked. A red light turned on. Rafferty stepped back. It's transmitting. Where? He pulled the battery. The light stayed on. His face changed. It's hardwired. We heard a car outside. Headlights swept across the windows. Someone had followed us. Rafferty grabbed my arm. Back door. Now. We ran through the hallway. A black SUV waited at the curb. A man stepped out. He wasn't wearing a mask. I recognized him. Calder Voss. He had worked for Dorian and appeared at several of our business dinners. He looked at me. Camila, you need to come with me. Rafferty stepped in front of me. Why? Calder held up a folder. Because Dorian isn't trying to take your daughter. He looked at me. He's trying to stop you from finding out who she really is. My throat tightened. Who is my daughter? Calder glanced toward the house. She's the reason Dorian married you. Before I could respond, another car turned onto the street. Calder suddenly looked frightened. Get out of here. Who is coming? He didn't answer. He got into the SUV and drove away. Rafferty watched them disappear. Then my phone rang. Dorian. I answered. You went back to the house, he said. How do you know? Because I know you. You've been recording me. Yes. Why? I needed proof. Proof of what? That you're going to destroy the only family your daughter has ever known. You changed her birth records. Silence. Then Dorian said, so you've seen the file? Yes. Then you know enough to stop. No. His voice became almost gentle. Camila, you still don't understand. Explain it. I didn't leave you because I stopped loving you. I almost laughed. You called leaving me your smartest decision. It was. Then why did you marry me? There was a long pause. When he answered, my body went cold. Because 7 years ago, I needed you to give birth to a child who was never supposed to be yours. The call ended. I stared at the screen. Rafferty said my name. I couldn't answer. I was asking whether the little girl sleeping in my house was actually the baby I had given birth to. I spent the entire night sitting beside Eloan's bed, watching her breathe. At 7 in the morning, Eloan opened her eyes. Mommy? I'm here. Can we have pancakes? I almost cried. Yes. She ran downstairs. Rafferty was already in the kitchen. He had stayed on the couch after we returned from the old house. He looked at me. Did you sleep? No. Neither did I. I told him what Dorian had said. Rafferty didn't interrupt. When I finished, he asked, do you want the truth, or do you want the answer that makes you feel better? The truth. Then we need a DNA test. I looked toward the kitchen. Not yet. Why? Because if Dorian altered records, he may have altered medical records too. Rafferty understood. We need an independent test. And we need to know what he was trying to hide. That morning, I called Nessa Calder. She arrived at my house before 10. I showed her the documents from St. Maribel. She read them twice. This is bigger than a custody dispute. I know. Where did you get this envelope? The hospital archive. Nessa looked at the handwritten note. Do you recognize this handwriting? Dorian's. Then we need a forensic document examiner. How fast? Today. Nessa took photographs of every page before placing the documents into a plastic evidence sleeve. Do not lose these, she said. If Dorian knows we're looking, we assume he will try to make them disappear. Can he? He's already tried. Then she asked, who is Rafferty Quill? I looked at him. He runs Harbor House. Nessa studied him. And he was the dispatcher at St. Maribel 7 years ago. Rafferty nodded. Then he's a witness. He may be more than that, I said. Nessa frowned. What do you mean? I don't know yet. At noon, we met a forensic examiner named Orla Venn at her office downtown. She examined the original note under magnification. The ink is old, she said. How old? At least 6 years. Is it Dorian's handwriting? She compared it with several samples. Likely. Likely isn't enough. No. But there's something more interesting. She pointed to the paper. The note was written on hospital stationery. Meaning? It was produced inside St. Maribel. She turned the page over. A faint impression remained. She made a copy of it. The words were barely visible. She examined the paper again. Someone wrote this while the ink was still fresh. The pressure marks are clear. She turned the sheet beneath the lamp. There's another impression here. Seraphine Quaid, infant male, temporary status. I stopped breathing. Who is Seraphine Quaid? Rafferty answered. We don't know yet. I remembered the name from the file. The second mother. The missing baby. The altered records. Then Orla found another impression. Noah Quaid. I looked at Rafferty. That's the baby. Yes. But why was his name on my record? Orla shook her head. I can't answer that. Nessa stood. We need to find Seraphine. We spent the afternoon searching old records. At 4:30, we found an address. Seraphine Quaid lived 2 hours north in a town called Greyhaven. We drove there before sunset. A woman opened the door. She was younger than I expected. Her face changed when she saw my name. You know me. I know Dorian Vey. Then you know why I'm here. Her eyes filled with anger. Come inside. The living room contained photographs of a dark-haired little boy. A small birthmark beneath his left ear. The same mark I had seen on Eloan. I pointed. Is that Noah? Seraphine nodded. Where is he? With me. He's alive? Yes. Then why does Dorian have records saying nothing? Because Dorian told everyone Noah died. Why? Because he wanted my son. Seraphine sat down. 7 years ago, Noah was born premature. Dorian offered treatment at his private facility. I was 19. I was terrified. I signed everything. What happened? He told me Noah died 3 days later. Did you see him? No. Did you receive a death certificate? No. Then how did you find him? Seraphine looked toward the hallway. I never did. The boy in the photographs isn't Noah. She pulled out an old photograph. I asked how she had survived those years without answers. I didn't, she said. I learned how to function without them. Her voice hardened. Then I saw Dorian again. The child looked exactly like the boy from the Harbor House article. Seraphine shook her head. That is Elliot. Who is Elliot? A boy Dorian raised under the Vey name. Rafferty stepped forward. Where is Noah? Seraphine's face hardened. I don't know. Then she said, but I know where Dorian kept the records. Where? An old clinic outside Greyhaven. Seraphine gave us a second address written on the back of an old receipt. That clinic hasn't operated in years. Then why would the records still be there? Because Dorian never trusted digital storage for anything important. Before we left, I asked her one question. Why did Dorian marry me? Seraphine looked at me for several seconds. Because he needed a mother. For Noah? No. For the child he planned to claim as his own. My stomach dropped. Which child? Seraphine whispered, yours. We drove to the old clinic after dark. The building had been closed for years. Rafferty forced open a side door. Inside, we used our phone flashlights. Room after room was empty until we found a locked office. Rafferty opened the cabinet beneath the desk. Inside were folders arranged by date. He found one marked with my maiden name. I pulled it free. My hands were shaking before I even opened it. I found Dorian's name. Then mine. Then Eloan's. The file contained photographs from the day she was born. One showed me unconscious in a hospital bed. Another showed Dorian holding a newborn. I turned the page. A handwritten label read. Infant H, female, transferred from Han case. I stared at it. Infant H? Rafferty took the file. That's you. No. He looked at the photograph. Camila, that's Eloan. I shook my head. Then why does it say transferred? We found another file. Quaid, male, temporary identity. Then another. Vey, female. Permanent identity pending. The three files had been kept together. My daughter. Noah. And a third identity. A door slammed somewhere down the corridor. Rafferty grabbed my hand. Someone is here. Then a man's voice came from the darkness. Camila. I recognized it. Dorian. He stepped into the doorway. Calder Voss stood behind him. Dorian looked at the files in my hands. You were never supposed to find this place. I stepped backward. What did you do to my daughter? Dorian's expression changed. For the first time since he left me, he looked afraid. Your daughter is safe. Then tell me the truth. He looked at the file marked Quaid, then at me. You've been asking the wrong question. What question should I ask? Dorian's eyes moved toward Rafferty. Ask him why he was at the hospital when Eloan was born. Rafferty went pale. I turned toward him. Dorian smiled. Go ahead, Camila. Then he said the sentence that changed everything. Ask Rafferty why he signed the document that transferred your newborn daughter away from you. I looked at Rafferty and saw something I had never seen on his face before, fear. Is that true? He didn't answer. Dorian smiled. That silence is your answer. Shut up, Rafferty said. Dorian stepped closer. You signed the transfer. I was 26. You knew what you were signing. I was told it was an emergency. And you never checked. Rafferty's jaw tightened. I felt betrayed, but something about Dorian's expression bothered me. He was too pleased. He wanted me angry at Rafferty. Why are you showing me this? I asked. Because Rafferty has spent 7 years pretending he was protecting you. Rafferty finally looked at me. I made a mistake. A mistake? I was the dispatcher assigned to the hospital. Dorian arrived with authorization papers. He told me the infant needed immediate transfer. You signed it? Yes. Did you see the baby? Yes. Was it a Loan? He looked down. I don't know. Dorian laughed. That is exactly the problem. I stepped toward him. You said leaving me was the smartest decision you ever made. It was. Was marrying me part of that decision? Yes. The answer came without hesitation. Why? Dorian looked at the folder. Because I needed legal protection around a child. What child? Eloan. She is my daughter. Are you sure? Before I could answer, the lights went out. Someone had cut the power. Rafferty grabbed my arm. Stay behind me. A door slammed somewhere nearby. Then Dorian's voice came from the darkness. Run if you want. The truth will follow you. Rafferty pulled me through a side hallway. We escaped through a rear door and reached the car. Only when we were several blocks away did he speak. I should have told you. Everything. Yes. Start with the transfer. He took a breath. 7 years ago, I was working emergency dispatch. Dorian called directly. He said a newborn was in danger and needed private transport. You believed him. I did. Why? He had hospital authorization. The paperwork looked legitimate. Who gave it to you? Dorian. Then why did you sign? Because I was told the mother had consented. Was the mother me? No. That answer confused me. Then why did Dorian connect it to my daughter? I don't know. We stopped at a roadside diner because neither of us trusted the old clinic. Inside, Rafferty placed his phone on the table. There is one thing I never told you. What? I kept a copy of the dispatch audio. He played it. Static. Then Dorian's voice. Infant Quaid requires immediate transfer. Another voice answered. Mother has not signed. Dorian said, her signature is being obtained. Then my own name was spoken. I froze. Why did he say my name? Rafferty stopped the recording. I don't know. Play it again. He did. This time I heard something beneath the static. A nurse said, Han has already delivered. Then Dorian answered. Good. Move both infants. My blood went cold. Both? Rafferty stared at me. That is what I heard. The next morning, we went to Nessa Calder's office. She listened to the recording twice, then called an independent medical investigator, Dr. Oren Say. By noon, he had found something. The hospital's numbering system shows 2 births within 11 minutes. Mine and Seraphine's? Yes. Which baby went where? That is unclear. Can you determine it? Not from these records. Then what do we need? DNA. I looked at Nessa. I'll test Eloan. Dr. Say nodded. And Seraphine should test her son if he can be located. Seraphine arrived that afternoon. She brought a little boy with her. His name was Noah Quaid. I had never seen him before. He had dark eyes and a small birthmark beneath his left ear. The mark was identical to Eloan's. Noah looked at me. Are you Camila? Yes. Mom says you might know something about where I came from. The DNA test was performed that evening at a private laboratory. We waited 2 days. Dorian filed another custody motion. Nessa fought it. Then the laboratory called. We gathered in Nessa's office. Dr. Say opened the report. Camila, the result between you and Eloan is conclusive. My heart stopped. What does it say? Eloan is your biological daughter. I closed my eyes. Then Dr. Say continued. But Noah is also genetically related to you. Nobody moved. Seraphine stared at him. What? He turned the report toward us. Camila is not Noah's mother. She is his biological aunt. My mind raced. If he's my nephew, then who is his father? We need a paternal sample to confirm. Rafferty suddenly stood. Dorian. If Dorian is Noah's biological father, everything changes. But there was another possibility. A possibility that explained why Dorian had needed my marriage. I turned to Nessa. Who was my sister? She frowned. You don't have a sister. I did. My mother had told me for years that I was an only child. But the DNA report said otherwise. That night, I called my mother. She answered from her home in Oregon. Mom, I need you to tell me the truth. There was silence. About what? Did I have a sister? The silence became longer. Then she whispered a name. Leora. My knees almost gave out. Who was Leora? My daughter. You said I was your only child. She died before you were born. My mother began crying. She didn't. I was told she died. Who told you? Dorian's father. Everything inside me went still. Merritt Vey. The man who knew about the trust. I called Rafferty. We need to find Merritt. He disappeared this morning. What? His house is empty. Then my phone buzzed. No number. One sentence. You finally asked about Leora. A second message arrived. Now ask why Dorian needed you to become a mother. Then a photograph appeared. It showed my mother holding a newborn girl. On the back was a date. The day before I was born. Beside the baby's face was the same silver bird symbol. I stared until my vision blurred. My family had not lost a child. Someone had taken one. And 7 years ago, Dorian had married me because he needed access to the family secret my mother had spent 34 years hiding. I had spent 34 years believing I was an only child. By sunrise, I knew that belief had been manufactured. My mother's confession came in fragments. Her daughter Leora had been born the day before me. She had been told the baby died. But the photograph in my hand showed a living newborn with the silver bird symbol beside her. Who told you Leora died? I asked. Merritt Vey. Why would Dorian's father know about my sister? My mother looked down. Because he paid for the hospital. We drove to my mother's house in Oregon that afternoon. Rafferty came with me. Nessa stayed behind to work on the custody case. My mother, Elena Hahn, was waiting at the kitchen table with a box she had hidden for decades. I should have told you, she said. Yes. She opened it. Inside were hospital bracelets, letters, photographs, and one yellow envelope. The first photograph showed my mother holding 2 newborn girls. I stared at it. Twins? Yes. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was afraid. Of Merritt? Of what he could do. She handed me a letter dated 34 years earlier. The sender was Merritt Vey. It said he could arrange treatment for Leora because she had been born with a rare blood disorder. My mother signed temporary medical authorization. 3 days later, she was told Leora had died. But she didn't, I whispered. No. Then where did she go? My mother looked at Rafferty. I don't know. Rafferty noticed another document. What's this? My mother tried to take it back. I stopped her. It was a payment record. A private medical foundation had transferred money to a trust in my mother's name. The date was the day Leora disappeared. Why would they pay you? They said it was compensation. For what? My mother closed her eyes. For giving them permission to use Leora in a medical study. I felt sick. You signed away your own child. I thought she was dying. But she survived. Yes. Who took her? I don't know. Then my mother looked at me. But Dorian found out about her years later. Before he married me? Yes. That explained the marriage. Not love. Not compatibility. Access. Dorian had wanted information about my family, the trust, and Leora. But there was still one question. Why alone? That evening, Nessa called. Camila, I found the trust agreement. What does it say? Eloan becomes the protected beneficiary at age 7. Protected from whom? Any guardian with a financial conflict. Dorian? Yes. Then why did he need custody? To challenge the trustee. I understood. Dorian couldn't touch the money while I remained an independent parent. He needed custody. He needed me discredited. And he needed Rafferty to look like a dangerous replacement father. But the Leora connection still made no sense. Nessa received a package. No return address. Inside was a USB drive and a handwritten note. Play the video alone. We watched it in her office. The footage showed a hospital corridor 34 years earlier. A younger Merritt Vey walked through the maternity wing. He carried a newborn. Then my mother appeared. She was holding me. Merritt spoke to a doctor. 2 girls. Yes. Which one has the blood disorder? The doctor pointed toward the baby Merritt was holding. Leora. Merritt looked down. She'll be useful. My stomach turned. The video continued. Merritt handed Leora to a woman in a gray coat. The woman wore the silver bird pendant. Then the footage ended. Who is she? We need to identify her. Rafferty had gone pale. I know that pendant. From where? Harbor House. How? Someone used to volunteer there. Who? He hesitated. Seraphine. I stared at him. Seraphine knew my sister. She knew the woman with the pendant. We drove to Greyhaven. Seraphine was waiting when we arrived. When she saw the video, she covered her mouth. I've seen her. Who is she? Dr. Vena Arlen. Dorian's mother? No. Seraphine shook her head. She worked with Merritt. What did they do? Medical research. On children? She didn't answer. Then Seraphine revealed the final part. Dorian wasn't the mastermind. I looked at her. Then who was? Merritt. But Dorian married me. Because Merritt told him to. Why? Because your family had something they needed. The trust? No. She looked at me. Leora. My heart stopped. She's alive? Seraphine nodded. She was raised under another name. Where? She lived at Harbor House for years. Rafferty stepped forward. That's impossible. Why? Because I would have known. Seraphine looked at him. You knew her. Rafferty's face changed. No. You answered the emergency call when she was transferred. He shook his head. I never saw her again. Seraphine reached into a drawer and pulled out an old photograph. It showed a teenage girl standing outside Harbor House. Dark hair. Same eyes as mine. Same small scar near her eyebrow. My scar. I couldn't breathe. What's her name? Seraphine whispered it. Evelyn Quill. Rafferty stepped backward. That can't be. I looked at him. Why? He stared at the photograph. Because Evelyn Quill was my sister. The room went silent. Rafferty sat down. I was told she died when I was 19. Seraphine shook her head. She didn't. I looked between them. My missing twin had been raised under another name. Rafferty had unknowingly spent years searching for the person he thought was dead. And Dorian had known. Then my phone rang. Dorian. I answered. He didn't say hello. You found Leora. How do you know? Because I know where you're going next. Where? He breathed slowly. To the place where your sister has been living for 7 years. My heart pounded. Where is she? Dorian said one final sentence. With the man you think is helping you. The call ended. I looked at Rafferty. For the first time, I wondered whether Dorian's warning was a lie, or whether the person sitting beside me had been hiding the truth all along.